At Thanksgiving, my sister yanked my laptop off the counter and shouted, "She's been hiding $12 million." The room froze. My mother laughed like it was a joke until she saw the screen. My father's fork slipped. 20 relatives turned toward me, faces twisted with greed and disbelief. Then Mom said it, the sentence that burned through the air like acid. "Give it to your sister, she deserves it more." I didn't argue. I just looked at them, smiling the way you do when you finally see people for who they are. What happened after that, let's just say, Thanksgiving ended, but the reckoning didn't. I used to think silence kept the peace. Turns out it just made me invisible. Growing up, my family treated my sister Madison like fragile glass, and me like background noise. She was the miracle baby born 2 months early, tiny and breathless. After that, our house stopped feeling like home and started feeling like a hospital. The air always smelled of bleach. Mom placed sanitizer bottles on every shelf, and every time I so much as sneezed, I was shipped off to Grandma Nora's. At first it felt like an adventure, Cookie's old movies, the quiet hum of her sewing machine. But kids aren't stupid. I realized being sent away wasn't a treat. It was exile. Meanwhile, Madison grew stronger, louder, needier. Mom orbited her like a satellite, and Dad just nodded along. If Madison had a headache, I was told to lower my voice. If she was tired, I did the dishes. When she got a C+ on a paper, it went on the fridge. When I scored a perfect 1600 on my SAT, Mom said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to helping Madison with her homework. I learned early that doing everything right didn't make you seen, it made you convenient. So I started saving pieces of myself. A corner of a notebook, a drawer of sketches, a secret goal to get out. By 17, I'd applied to 15 colleges by myself. No one asked where I wanted to go. They were too busy planning Madison's high school recital. When the letter from Michigan arrived a full scholarship, I didn't celebrate at home. I sat in the public library staring at the acceptance form until my eyes blurred. That night at dinner, I told them. Mom looked startled. "Michigan." "But that's so far. Who will help with Madison?" I said. "I'll manage." She smiled sadly, like I'd said something naive. "You always do." I worked double shifts at May's Diner that summer, saving every tip, learning how to listen without trusting. People think betrayal comes from a single moment. It doesn't. It's a slow leak, one quiet dismissal at a time. When I left for college, no one came to move me in. Aunt Denise drove me instead, slipped an envelope into my hand and whispered, "Your grandma wanted you to have this. $500 saved from her Social Security checks." That was the first time I understood what love looked like when it was real. For a long time, I told myself they just didn't know any better, that the silence wasn't cruelty, just habit. But habits can kill you slowly. After college, I landed a job at a Detroit auction house. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Cataloging jewelry, authenticating old estate pieces, that's where I found my voice. While Madison bounced between colleges, I stayed late at work, learning every hallmark, every maker's mark. My boss, Mr. Harrington, once said, "You have the eyes of someone who's been ignored too long. You notice everything." He was right. When my small side projects grew into something real, a business of my own, I didn't tell my family. They thought I worked in a dusty antique shop. It was easier that way. Once a month, I'd show up to Sunday dinner in a Target sweater and an old tote bag, pretending the Hermes sitting in my closet didn't exist. "Your sister's so ambitious," Mom would say, pouring wine. "She's thinking about grad school." Dad would add, "Maybe you could help her out, Vic." You've always been good with money. It started as small requests, help with a bill, a temporary loan. Then it became routine. I transferred $5,000 a month, then $7,000, telling myself it was kindness. But the truth was simpler. I was buying peace. Madison never thanked me. She'd show up to dinner with a new bag laugh and say, "Guess who found another outlet steal?" I recognized it instantly. A limited run piece worth more than her car. I stayed quiet, sipping my wine, counting the seconds until I could leave. Every time I looked at them, I saw a family that only believed in sacrifice when it came from me. The more my business grew, the smaller I made myself at home. I had offices in 3 cities. employees, clients who trusted me with millions in assets, but to my parents, I was still our other daughter who works with old jewelry. Then came the call. Mom's voice trembled soft but practiced. "Honey, your sister's thinking of getting her MBA. It's expensive, but she deserves the best. Maybe you could contribute." Deserve. That word stuck in my throat like a stone. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just stared at the invoice she sent later, the amount circled in red, more than I made my entire first year out of college. Something cracked then. Years of being the helper, the stand-in, the invisible success story, it all went quiet. I looked around my office, the walls lined with framed certificates and auction photos, and thought, if they don't see me now, maybe they never will. So I planned Thanksgiving myself that year. No takeout, no excuses, no hiding, just one dinner my way. Thanksgiving was supposed to be my olive branch, my truce, the one night we could pretend to be a family without measuring who gave more. I rented a caterer I'd used for corporate events, white linens, gold chargers, food that looked too perfect to eat. When Mom asked how much it cost, I lied. Discount rate. I said. She frowned. "You're not taking out loans, are you?" I just smiled. "Don't worry, Mom. I can handle it." By noon, the house smelled of cinnamon sage and roasted turkey. Everything shimmered in candlelight. Madison swept in last late as usual, wrapped in a designer coat she swore was secondhand. She took one look at the spread and smirked. "Store-bought stuffing. Guess you've gone corporate." I laughed quietly, pouring wine. I'd gotten used to her digs. They were safer than her sympathy. Dinner began like a photograph, everyone laughing too loudly, pretending not to notice the tension coiling between us. I told myself to just get through the night, smile, eat, survive. Then, midway through dessert, I stepped into the kitchen to check a live auction on my laptop, an important client bidding on a rare Art Nouveau piece in Hong Kong. My computer was open on the counter screen, filled with authentication reports and account statements. That's when it happened. Madison followed me in, probably to find more wine. She glanced at the screen and froze. Her reflection shimmered over the glowing numbers. Her mouth fell open, then twisted into something mean. She walked back into the dining room, laptop in hand like a trophy. "Hey, everyone," she said, voice bright. "You've got to see what Victoria's been hiding." The room went silent. The fire cracked. My mother's hand hovered mid-air, fork clinking against her plate. Madison flipped the screen toward them. $12 million. A gasp rippled around the table. Mom started laughing, high, awkward, desperate. "That can't be right. She works at that little antique shop." Dad frowned, eyes narrowing. "Is this true?" I stood in the doorway, watching it unfold. "Yes," I said simply. "It's true." Then Mom's face hardened. "You let us struggle. You let your sister take out loans." Dad's voice rose. "After everything we've done for you," and Madison, tears glistening, perfectly timed, whispered, "I deserve it more." It was the calm in her tone that did it. The entitlement so natural, it didn't even sound cruel. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself. I set my wine down and said, "You're right about one thing, Madison. You do deserve something, just not from me." I walked out into the cold night, the laughter and gasps fading behind me. That was the moment I stopped being the quiet one and started becoming free. The morning after Thanksgiving, my phone started buzzing before sunrise. 37 missed calls, 64 texts. Mom, Dad, Madison. Unknown numbers, all with the same rhythm of guilt and entitlement. "You've embarrassed this family. How could you hide that from us? You owe your sister." By noon, Madison had already taken the show to social media. Her post read, "Imagine watching your own sister hoard millions while her family struggles. Guess money really does change people." Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. People from high school, distant relatives I barely remembered, everyone suddenly had an opinion about my greed. I stared at the screen thumb hovering over the reply button, then set the phone down. I'd learned this pattern my whole life, they wound. I bleed, they feed. Not this time. Instead, I walked into my home office where sunlight hit the polished surface of my desk like a spotlight. On the screen, a spreadsheet was open, client contracts, company growth, invoices, my real life. Quiet, methodical, earned. My company wasn't luck. It was years of 4 a.m. starts and 18-hour days, nights, sleeping on an air mattress in a rented room above a restaurant. Every cent had a scar attached. So when Mom's name flashed across the phone again, I answered. "Victoria," she said softly, her voice trembling with faux concern. "We just need to talk. About what?" "About your sister. She's humiliated. The least you can do is help her. You have enough for both of you. She has her own life," I said. Mom sighed, wounded. "Don't be selfish. We're family." There it was, that word again, used like a chain. That evening, I drove to the office. The city outside was half asleep, but the lobby lights glowed warm. Jenna, my head of authentication, was still there. She looked up from her screen. "You okay, boss? Define okay," I said, forcing a smile. Jenna didn't push. She just nodded toward the coffee machine. "They'll come around. People like that always do once they realize they can't touch you." I wished I believed her. 3 days later, they showed up at my office. The receptionist buzzed me. There's a family here asking for you." My stomach tightened. I didn't need to ask which family. When I stepped into the lobby, the sight almost made me laugh. Mom clutching her purse like a weapon, Dad red-faced and righteous, Madison in oversized sunglasses pretending not to look terrified. Victoria Mom began with her rehearsed smile. "We're here to work this out." I didn't realize there was something to work out. Dad stepped forward. "We've decided what's fair. You'll set up a trust, $2 million for Madison, 1 for us. We raised you. We supported you." I blinked. "You supported me?" Mom's lips thinned. "Don't twist this. We made sacrifices for you." A memory flashed her voice years ago saying, "If you're sick, go stay with Grandma. Madison can't catch anything." Madison finally spoke, her voice cracking just enough for sympathy. "I'm not asking for much. You have everything. I just want to start fresh." I turned to her. "You've been starting fresh your whole life, and every time someone else paid for it." Dad slammed his palm on the reception desk. "You don't talk to your family like that." Jenna appeared from the hallway, silent as a ghost watching. I lowered my voice. "This is my office. You don't get to come here and demand anything from me." Mom's face twisted. "You're really going to do this to your own sister?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm finally doing something for myself." The room went still. Then I nodded to the security guard standing near the elevator. "Please escort them out." Mom gasped, a hand to her chest. "You're throwing your parents out." "Yes," I said, "and I should have done it years ago." They resisted, of course. Mom shouted that I'd regret this. Dad muttered threats about disowning me. Madison sobbed mascara streaking down her face until she realized no one was moving to comfort her. When the elevator doors closed behind them, the silence was deafening. Jenna exhaled. "You good?" I nodded. "Now I am." That night, I sat at home staring out the window at the city lights. The phone buzzed again. Another wave of texts, insults, apologies, manipulations. I blocked every number. Then I opened my bank app. For years, I'd been sending them monthly transfers money they believed came from some side work. I found the recurring payment labeled Family Support, clicked Cancel, and confirmed. One tap, one quiet rebellion. A week later, Mom switched tactics. She called from an unknown number, leaving voicemails that swung from rage to guilt to desperation. "Your sister's trying to start her own business. At least send her seed money. You can't erase blood, Victoria. Grandma would be ashamed." But Grandma wasn't ashamed. When I told her everything, she laughed softly. "About time you stopped letting them treat you like an ATM sweetheart." Her approval was the only thing that felt real. Still, the noise didn't stop. Madison posted another photo, wearing a fake Cartier bracelet captioned, "Karma's a boomerang." I almost commented, "It's a counterfeit," but didn't. Let her perform. The truth didn't need my defense. A month passed. The legal notice went out: harassment, defamation, cease and desist. My lawyer delivered it with precision, sharper than any insult they'd ever thrown at me. After that, the calls stopped. The next Sunday, I did something radical: nothing. No family dinner, no phone on the table, no waiting for approval that never came. I made tea, opened my vault, and worked on cataloging a set of vintage sapphires. The room was quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't sting anymore. People think revenge is about rage. It's not. It's about peace. It's about choosing silence because it finally belongs to you. For the first time in my life, Thanksgiving meant something different. Not family, not duty, freedom. 6 months passed before I heard their names again. By then, the storm had lost its sound. The official letters my lawyer sent worked better than any apology ever could. The calls stopped. The fake social media outrage fizzled. Even Madison's luxury business launch, her knockoff jewelry site, disappeared after 2 weeks. Still, sometimes at night, I'd catch myself checking my phone, waiting for the next blow. Trauma has muscle memory. You learn to brace before you breathe. Then one morning, an envelope arrived from Grandma Nora. Inside was a handwritten note and a photo of her sitting in front of her old jewelry cabinet smiling. Proud of you, sweetheart. You finally learned to keep what's yours. That sentence hit deeper than any I love you ever had. Work was thriving. The company expanded into another city. Jenna ran operations like clockwork. Clients from Dubai, Paris, and New York called daily. Yet I kept my routine: simple black coffee, lab gloves, quiet rooms, and polished light bouncing off gemstones. No more pretending to be small. When I walked into my new home, high ceilings, clean lines, a vault room built exactly to spec, I felt the kind of peace people mistake for loneliness. I wasn't lonely. I was free. Sometimes I scrolled through old photos, family dinners, birthdays, half smiles that never reached my eyes. They looked like strangers wearing my history. Madison still posted occasionally photos of rented cars, captions about self-made women. Once she showed off a bracelet claiming it was Cartier. The hallmark was wrong. I smiled. She'd learned nothing. But I didn't need her to. I closed my laptop, turned off my phone, and let the silence stretch across the room. That Thanksgiving, I didn't cook or cater. I ordered takeout, poured a glass of wine, and raised it to the empty seat across from me. To peace, I whispered, and to finally choosing myself. They said my sister deserved it more. Maybe she did, if deserving means taking until there's nothing left. But I earned every dollar, every quiet morning, every breath of peace they once mocked me for wanting. I built my life from the silence they left behind, and it's stronger than any of their noise. People think revenge is loud. It isn't. It's the sound of a locked door, a canceled payment, a boundary held firm. It's looking in the mirror and finally seeing yourself instead of who they told you to be. So if you've ever been the forgotten one, the helper, the invisible child, know this: you don't owe anyone your peace. Tell me, what would you have done if your own family said you didn't deserve your life? And if this story hit home, share it, subscribe, and stay for the next one.